Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for September 6, 2022, the Energy Sobriety Edition. And we begin with that story from the New York Times. And we are introducing you to a new term, which is energy sobriety. France has entered the era of energy sobriety because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and this has put a crimp in France's use of natural gas and other energy fuels that came from Russia. France's President Macron is calling on France to prepare for a new energy sobriety to face down the threat of a hard winter while assuring households and businesses about the government's ability to protect them. So if you've got a business in Western Europe or the United Kingdom, you better be ready for energy sobriety. Next up, from the Declan Herald, a rare contributor, nevertheless a prior contributor to the Daily Compliance News. I'm just shocked to read of corruption in the pharmaceutical industry. 58% of 395 fixed-dose combinations of antibiotics were not on the World Health Organization's most recommended list, but were talked about or passed out or given or somehow communicated at conferences. Not every doctor and pharmaceutical company, of course, resorts to unethical means to sell their products, but a large number of doctors and companies adopt unfair means. So in the FCPA world, it means that pharma's probably looking at some more enforcement actions. Next up, from Reuters, the former Prime Minister of Georgia has alleged in a trust suit that Credit Suisse failed to take steps to prevent him from losing $1.27 billion in a court case in Singapore. The former PM has accused Credit Suisse of failing to safeguard investments and take appropriate steps to prevent losses linked to fraud committed by its former Geneva-based banker, Patrice Lescaldron. And so Credit Suisse now accused in a lawsuit of violating trust. And finally, our final story comes to us from Wall Street Journal, Risk and Compliance Journal. Richard Vandefort reporting that Visa and Mastercard and American Express should begin tracking gun sales and flagging suspicious purchases to law enforcement, according to the Attorney Generals of New York and California. Obviously, this will be antithetical to red states such as the state of Texas or probably other southern states, but it's going to put additional pressure on Visa, MasterCard, and American Express and may actually lead to some true laws, or at least warning signs before the next massacre. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.